I have seen a lot of messed up things in my life. I'm sure a lot of you have too. I was thinking about this today when I was doing the segment. I don't think I'm being hyperbolic when I say I don't think I have ever seen such an openly racist campaign against a candidate as what is going on with Mamdani. I really I've never seen it. That's why when we covered the debate footage and this very, very uncomfortable 5 minutes where they were all the moderator, Cuomo, Sliwa, were all going after him basically for being a Muslim. That says like watching a debate in the 70s where he started asking a black guy about his history. Is he a criminal? Like that's what this feels like, where it would be acceptable
Right.
in the cultural moment. Like the idea that this is not career ending for everyone who's doing it. It's a strange thing to be witnessing, and as a New Yorker to be in the middle of. So of course you have that infamous Larry Elder cartoon that was dropped. And here are a few highlights from that debate, which is just remarkable that they all felt comfortable saying things like this.
Some Jewish New Yorkers continue to say that your comments on Israel and the war in Gaza leave them feeling unsafe and concerned about their future in our city.
And there is no doubt that there's two sides on what's going on, and the passions are very high. That doesn't justify anti-Semitic behavior in New York. It doesn't justify having a Jewish population that feels unprotected in New York. It doesn't justify leaders who stoke the flames of hatred against Jewish people, which is what Zoran does, in my opinion.
But let me speak on behalf of my two sons. When they've heard some of the statements you've made, like in support of global jihad, and I hear some people out there saying the Jews, their time is due, which means the same thing. They're frightened, they're scared. They view you as the arsonist who fanned the flames of anti-Semitism. They cannot suddenly accept the fact that you're coming in like a firefighter and you're going to put out these flames. You've got a lot of explaining to do, a lot of apologizing to do.
I mean, just
fuck
wow.
You suck.
Seriously. Truer words never spoken. It's got a lot of apologizing, explaining to do. For what? For what? This guy's agreeing to keep on maniac Jessica Tisch, who thought the college campus protests were horrible and disgraceful, as police commissioner. So what? What does he have to apologize for? This is the most racist shit I have ever seen in a political campaign that was this widely distributed with so little pushback from mainstream, where the media is joining in on it and indulging it. That's what makes it so unique.
Well, because they tried everything else.
I remember the Jesse Helms ads, but, Jesse Helms got tremendous pushback for that. Like, this is just being accepted as normal. Like, forget about 70s, man. Like, you have to go back to, like, a black candidate running in the 50s. Like, that is what this feels like. Like, watching Mamdani on stage, look, we have our issues with Mamdani, but that's not what this segment is about. Watching, you could see how they're really just trying to take away his dignity. And he's really trying to hold it together on that stage, man. And on a human level, I had a lot of compassion for him, watching him in that moment, trying to run for office, man. Guys is trying to run for office like anybody else. And they're really just making his identity the issue because, as you say, they tried everything else. So that's it. Masks come off. And I will also make a point here. I used to make this point on my Harlem tours. Northerners like to pretend that racism is a Southern phenomenon. And that's bullshit. We got plenty of racism up here. It's coded differently. It's directed at different people. It's more nuanced and subtle. It's not usually Klansmen riding down the street, so it's a little easier to pretend it's not there or to deny that it's there. But if this campaign does not demonstrate the level of simmering racism that exists in New York State. In my lifetime, I've never seen a campaign down south that was this racist. Ever. I've never seen anything like the campaign they're running against Mamdani. And that's saying something because I've seen some shit. So here's Adams. Here's Adams endorsing Cuomo and basically, connecting Mamdani to Islamic terrorism, which is kind of the line now.
Not going backwards, folks. And so this was a grueling time. And yes, am I angry that I'm not the one taking down Zoran, the socialist and the communist? You're darn right I am. But you know what? The city means more to me than anything. And it is time for us as a family to come together. New York can't be Europe, folks. I don't know what is wrong with people. You see what's playing out in other countries because of Islamic extremism. Not Muslims. Let's not mix this up.
Oh, no.
Those Islamic extremisms that are burning churches in Nigeria, that are destroying communities in Germany, that have taken over the logical thinkings. And that's what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for the family of New York. That's why I'm here today to endorse Andrew Cuomo to be part of this fight. And I'm going to give it my all these next few days.
All right, so a couple things here. One, this man is an excellent example of why the idea of casting the struggle for the better angels of society as a fight between evil white men and everyone else who's good is absurd. This guy, who I'm sure is well aware of the legacy of this kind of language being used against black people, is perfectly willing to use it against somebody else. That you cannot evaluate people's morality based on their identity, because very often a guy like Eric Adams is perfectly happy to collaborate with racists and to fan the flames of that kind of racism as long as it's not being directed at him. Now, he seems to be suggesting there are good and bad Muslims, right? And the bad Muslims are the extremists. Okay, well, how much more secular do you want them to be? How much less extremist Muslim could they be? His wife there sporting the hip boots at her wedding, wearing a very hip wedding dress. How much more secular could they be? How much further away from what he's describing, which, by the way, you notice he doesn't mention one thing about Muslims and their conduct in New York City, the Muslim population in New York City. He's talking about Nigeria. What the fuck does that have to do with New York? The idea of connecting this rather upscale, hip New York Muslim couple to people who are waging jihad in the middle of Africa, just absolutely insane. Like, if you're saying not all Muslims, then why would these Muslims not fit into the category of not all Muslims? What is it about them? If it's not just about being Muslim, then why would they not be acceptable? Why would they be unacceptable on those grounds? If these are not acceptable Muslims, then no Muslims are acceptable, right?
Well, of course. I mean, Mamdani is an extreme social liberal. I mean, they want to make New York City a sanctuary city.
Queen.
Yeah, they want to make New York City basically a sanctuary city for trans youth. I mean, they are extremely socially liberal, and that's why, if you notice, they haven't said a word about that in this whole campaign. You know, Megyn Kelly, that piece of garbage, that lying lout piece of garbage, Megyn Kelly, who just came out and endorsed Andrew Cuomo. Big culture warrior that she is. She's all about the COVID skepticism until it comes time to protect her money from the socialist who wants to tax rich people to give free buses. Now all of a sudden, well, hey, look, we got to pick the lesser of two evils. But Megyn Kelly, who's big into the, anti-trans stuff, you think there's got to be at least half a dozen blockbuster videos she could have put out about Mamdani's trans radicalism. But you notice she won't do that. She won't do that. And the reason she won't do that is because the closing pitch of the campaign against him is he's a Muslim terrorist.
He's a Muslim,
right?
That doesn't
Which means
fit.
he's got to be an
Right.
extreme right-wing reactionary jihadist radical.
Right.
So he can't be both a radical Islamist and a trans activist. That doesn't mix. So she had to forego one grift in order to drive home the other, and that is the predicament that they found themselves in this whole campaign, which is why they could never really solve Mamdani. They could never really figure him out.
Right.
They could never really find an attack against him that worked.
Even my audience is not that stupid, so I think I should stay off of that.
Right.
So here's Michael Rapaport going after his wife.
Bullshit artist, smiley, angry, mean motherfucker. I think behind every great terrorist-loving man is an even greater, even stronger terrorist-loving woman. Dixane Zora Mamdani's wife. She's nasty too. We have to take this guy down by any means necessary. First, Kung Fu Curtis Lee, drop the fuck out. Don't embarrass yourself.
All right. So for one thing, they've been making a lot of rhetoric that incites violence. So I don't know exactly what take them out by any means possible means, but I promise you, if a Democrat said that about a Republican, Trump would be truthing about it. He'd be talking about it at a press conference.
Oh, you'd have the feds at your door asking questions.
You'd have the feds at your door. Besides that, listen, you are not getting near a woman that fine without paying for it, and I don't think the City Slickers franchise is paying those kind of residuals at this point, Michael. You should be so lucky as to get anywhere near a woman like that.
There are ovarian cysts that look like Michael Rapaport, but he'll never get as close as them.
But he'll never get. Now, Adams is also suggesting that Muslims worldwide should be held accountable for the actions of some Muslims. That because some Muslims have committed acts of terrible violence, Mamdani somehow needs to be stopped because of that. Well, I guess we got to go get Schumer. Go get him out of office. Is he accountable for this?
Witnessing two children being pushed into the mass grave by Israeli soldiers with a bulldozer, and then their cries being muffled by the dirt that was poured upon them while they were being buried alive. And then when the bodies were excavated, the red and green shirts of these kids, whose hands were tied behind their backs, were found. You know, that type of monstrousness, that level of heinous behavior can only happen if your hatred is formulated by design from your birth.
All right, so that's Jewish Dr. Mark Perlmutter. So do we need to get rid of Chuck Schumer? I mean, politically? Do we? I don't want to fall into that trap.
Not by any means necessary politically, right?
Yeah. Do we?
We don't want to be Rapaport.
Yeah, exactly. Do we need to get him out? I'm not Rapaport. Do we need to get him out of office? Because according to Eric Adams' logic, everyone's responsible for the actions of every member of a group. That's pretty horrible, man. So we need Chuck Schumer out of office, right? How about that? How about that? That's just from yesterday. 9-year-old Palestinian boy stood at a distance. An Israeli soldier knelt and shot him dead. The soldiers later appeared to celebrate. So that's pretty horrible shit, man. That's pretty horrible shit. You see them sharing around these numbers of the number of Islamic attacks. If you put the attacks by Israelis on Muslims under the category of terrorism, as it should be, I promise you they far exceed the attacks worldwide of Muslims against others. But of course, they don't keep score that way. So Cuomo went on a radio program, and I'll read afterwards what this jerk-off says, because this is the full context that he thinks somehow exonerates what Cuomo said. You be the judge.
Even morning, there's a crisis. And people's lives are at stake. God forbid another 9/11. Can you imagine Mamdani in the seat And there's
I could. He'd be cheering.
Yeah, well, it's another problem. But can you imagine that?
No.
I mean,
listen.
If Mamdani was in the seat on 9/11.
Yeah.
What would have happened in this city?
Oh, come on. Listen.
What happened when Rudy Giuliani was in the seat on 9/11? A building that was not hit by a plane fell down. The same building that had the command and control center inside the World Trade Center, which Giuliani insisted
he was
it stay there.
advised not to do.
Right, which Giuliani was advised not to put it there. He kept it there, and then that building, for some reason, we won't ask questions now, no time for that, fell down. That's what happened when Republican Rudy Giuliani was in the chair. Can you imagine what this guy's going to do if he's in the chair? That's when your paisan there was in the chair. That's what happened. That's what happened. A third building fell that shouldn't have fell. That's what happened when he was in the chair.
Yeah. Okay. So here, Henry Rosoff, I don't know who this guy is. He says, here's the audio in context. Cuomo talking about what he says is Mamdani's inexperience. Yeah. He also says when he says he'd be cheering for it, well, that's another thing. It doesn't matter that overall it was a discussion of experience. He signs off on that formulation. He goes with that as a joke. And, not a joke. Okay, so Mamdani gave I must say, a very moving speech about his experience as a Muslim. We're gonna play about 4 minutes of it. The speech, if you want to see the whole thing, is a little over 9 minutes. But this is the most relevant part.
Yesterday, Andrew Cuomo laughed and agreed when a radio host said that I would cheer another 9/11. Yesterday, Eric Adams said that we can't let our city become Europe. He compared me to violent extremists. And he lied again and again when he said that our movement seeks to burn churches and destroy communities. The day before that, Curtis Sliwa slandered me from the debate stage when he claimed that I support global jihad. And every day, Super PAC ads imply that I am a terrorist or mock the way I eat. Push polls that ask New Yorkers questions like whether they support invented proposals to make halal food mandatory, or political cartoons that represent my candidacy as an airplane hurtling towards the World Trade Center. But I do not want to use this moment to speak to them any further. I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of New York City. I want to speak to the memory of my aunt, who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab. I want to speak to the Muslim who works for our city, whether they teach in our schools or walk the beat for the NYPD. New Yorkers who all make daily sacrifices for the city they call home, only to see their leaders spit in their face. I want to speak to every child who grows up here, marked as the other, who is randomly selected in a way that never quite feels random, who feels that they carry a stain that can never be cleaned. Growing up in the shadow of 9/11, I have known what it means to live with an undercurrent of suspicion in this city. I will always remember the disdain that I faced, the way that my name could immediately become Muhammad, and how I could return to my city only to be asked in a double-mirrored room at the airport if I had any plan on attacking it. And since I was very young, I've also known that I was spared the worst of it. I was never pressured to be an informant, like a classmate of mine. I've never had the word terrorist spray-painted on my garage, as one of my staff had to endure. My mosque has never been set on fire. To be Muslim in New York is to expect indignity. But indignity does not make us distinct. There are many New Yorkers who face it. It is the tolerance of that indignity that does. Since I announced my candidacy for mayor 1 year ago yesterday, I have sought to be the candidate fighting for every single New Yorker, not simply the Muslim candidate. I've carried these indignities with me each moment of this race, doing so all the while as the first major Muslim candidate in the history of our city. I thought that if I could build a campaign of universality, I could define myself as the leader I aspire to be, one representing every New Yorker, no matter their skin color or religion, no matter where they were born. I thought that if I worked hard enough, it would allow me to be that leader. And I thought that if I behaved well enough, or bit my tongue enough in the face of racist, baseless attacks, all while returning back to my central message, it would allow me to be more than just my faith. I was wrong. No amount of redirection is ever enough. In doing this, I have told the wide-eyed young child in Jackson Heights or the first-time voter in Parkchester that they too should remain in the shadows. In many ways, I have become that same uncle who pulled me aside 6 years ago. No more. The dream of every Muslim is simply be treated the same as any other New Yorker. And yet for too long, we have been told to ask for less than that and to be satisfied with whatever little we receive. No more. For as long as we have lived, we have known that no matter what anyone says, there are still certain forms of hate that are acceptable in this city. Islamophobia is not seen as inexcusable. One can incite violence against our mosques and know that condemnation will never come. Elected officials in this city can sell T-shirts calling for my deportation without any fear of accountability.
Yep. So the rest of it is worth watching. It's very moving, I gotta say, for a guy who reads very often as polished. He makes it look easy, but he's very political. Yeah, man. I mean, that's the most real I've seen that guy. I think that moment on the debate stage really made an impact on him. I think that was part of it. And I think what he's saying there is true. I think he felt kind of bad that by refusing to address this or by trying to pretend that this was not part of his political identity, he was sending a message to other Muslims that that can't be part of your identity if you're running. And he says he's referencing it at the beginning of the speech. He talks about an uncle who told him that he could say he's not a Muslim when he said he was going to run. He doesn't have to run as a Muslim. So yeah, and hey, as a native New Yorker, that's certainly another perspective on the post 9/11 world. And needless to say, the vast, 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 vast majority of Muslims did not approve of that action. At the time that happened, I worked with Muslims. I was with Muslims pretty much every night. I was driving a horse and carriage back then. We used to talk about it at great length, and they would always say, well, it's forbidden to kill the innocent, so how could this be approved by Islam? That was the general view on it. And these guys did not have views I agreed with on everything. They felt that you shouldn't be able to insult religion, not just Islam, religion generally. I would always get into freedom of speech debates with them about that. But they certainly did not approve of 9/11. And yet, the entire Muslim community was treated like criminals. And that is a stigma that's never really gone away. So in that speech, he's not only addressing the way that he's been treated in this campaign, he's addressing a festering wound in New York City since 9/11. He's speaking for that entire community and what they've experienced. It's a pretty remarkable moment. Do you want to say anything before I go on?
Yeah, no, I should just add, just for context and to correct the record on a couple things. 9/11 was an inside job, and Israelis were seen celebrating it. So
yep.
I would like to submit that for the record.
You know, I was going to ask you for some stuff on that, but I was like, you know, this is already getting to be too much.
Yeah.
That's going to be a whole
Yeah.
rabbit hole I'm going to go down.
Yeah, you know, 9/11 is an example of why you shouldn't elect people from the Skull and Bones secret society. Not an example of why you shouldn't elect Muslims. It's why you shouldn't elect secret society frat bros whose fathers were head of the CIA. That's a lesson to take from 9/11, I think.
Yes. So Sid Rosenberg, the piece of shit who did the radio interview, tweets out after this. The actor Zora Mamdani continuing to blame Andrew Cuomo for something he didn't say. You heard the audio that they were claiming was exonerating because of the context. That's exactly what he said. The guy said he'd be cheering it on, and he said, well, that's another thing. There's no misconstruing what he said. What a creep. And all the Democrat politicians supporting the terrorist while trying to destroy his competitor. And radio host Zoran Mamdani, you know my name. You brought me up before more than once. Oh, he's not helping you to promote your obscure show that I never fucking heard of until this came up. So he's really trying to juice this, as you could see.
Please clap.